the rabbi stared, and in one instant, or several instances, the person died, and in other instances, it says he became a pile of bones. First of all, what's the difference between he died and he became a pile of bones? So the answer is that when the tzaddik looks at you, the tzaddik's eyes project holiness, and holiness attracts holiness. And so we are stirred and attracted to the eyes of the righteous. But what if we are unholy? What if we are unworthy? What if we are angry at the righteous? We don't want to be attracted, but our souls are attracted to the eyes and the gaze of the righteous. And if the person is unworthy of having the soul restored, then simply this soul is attracted to the eyes and the gaze of the holy man and stays with him and does not return to the impudent body of his detractor, criticizer, or opponent. This is the position of the Or HaChaim, Reb Chaim ibn Attar, that when the tzaddik would gaze, the souls of the opponents would be drawn to the gaze of the tzaddik, because holiness is drawn to holiness. I had difficulty with these stories. Number one, are you allowed to kill someone else? Does it make a difference how you kill them? If you kill them by love, or you kill them with a knife? Number one. Number two, does it mean that if we question the veracity of our teacher, does it mean that if we can't understand or appreciate, and based upon our learning, we criticize, does it mean that automatically we are guilty of death? These are questions that have eluded me for many years. I'll tell you what I think. The righteous try to correct the paths of those that they come into contact with. Sometimes it's through their words of encouragement. Sometimes it's through their public statements, their pronouncements. Sometimes it's through their prayers. And at other times, it's through direct contact. What if there cannot be direct contact? What if the person doesn't want to hear? So there, the tzaddik gazes. When the tzaddik gazes, the person who he is looking at feels that the tzaddik is looking at him. And at that moment, the person is all shook up. And the question is, what is he ready to do, realizing that he's being shaken up by the tzaddik? In some instances, the person is given freedom of choice. But what if the person has violated the choice over and over again? What happens if the person refuses to accept the direction of the tzaddik? What happens then? It isn't that the tzaddik causes the person's death. The tzaddik's gaze is meant to shake up the person. that the person should change their ways. And this is something that the person feels very deeply, that the tzaddik's looking at me, and there's something wrong, and maybe I ought to do something about it. If, however, the person refuses to change, then the soul of that person doesn't want to come back into that body. So much so that the soul doesn't want to even have any direct contact with the body. The reason why the body remains for a long time till it decomposes is because some of the soul remains with the body. But if the soul is so repulsed by the decisions of the person in that body, by the consciousness of that body, the soul doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And that's when the person becomes not just dead, becomes a pile of bones. Because the soul doesn't even want to stay with the body for one moment. And so there's instant decomposition. In other cases, the person who is shaken up realizes that he's done something wrong, and the person doesn't want to remain alive. That happened in one case with Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. In another case, the person didn't want to change, but was not a bad person. It's just that the person was obstinate and didn't want to change. And the person died. But he didn't become a pile of bones because he wasn't a bad person. He didn't make bad decisions against the tzaddik. And so the bottom line of all of that is that the tzaddik's gaze is not meant to injure, but meant to shake up. And if in the process of being shook up, the person doesn't want to change, so God allows that the soul that doesn't want to be in such a body is allowed to leave. Because you see, a person just can't leave on his own. You can't decide that you want to leave your body. You have to be in there. Even if you commit suicide, you have to stay until your time is up. You can't free yourself from any responsibility that God has placed upon you. But if the soul has violated the tenets of holiness and has gone against the holy teachers of the Torah, then the soul is allowed to stay away. Because the soul doesn't want to be in a body that disrespects the teachers of the Torah. And that explains also why this only happens with the Jewish people. It doesn't happen with Gentiles. Because the gaze of the tzaddik is fixed upon the holy soul. It wants the soul to correct itself. If it's not someone that he has a connection with, he won't look at that person and shake that person up. That person's got to shake himself up. So the bottom line of all of that is, the tzaddik is not trying to kill you. The tzaddik is trying to get you to think differently. And when you realize what the tzaddik's gaze can do, most of the time we accept that we have to change. Let me tell you a little story